honor and respect this work that we all do. It's important work. When done well, it liberates people from the strongest chains that humanity has been shackled with. And it's what we were talking about, shame.
Welcome back to On the Horizon. This is MelRose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode. As adult creators, we're fairly aware that the power of sexuality can be extremely, extremely important. How we wield it, how we monetize it, and everything in between. But are you aware of true sexual energy and how it can transform lives? Today's guest is Joel Benjamin, who has been teaching yoga and tantric bodywork for over 15 years. He offers integrative classes and workshops specializing in offerings for men. During the COVID lockdown, he began to create content exploring the bodywork and tantric edging techniques that he teaches in his workshops. His videos feature guided tutorials on the art of edging and the power of sexual energy. He is now a top 1% OnlyFans creator because of it. Though the videos are geared toward men, many women do follow his accounts to better understand the male body. Through his work, he hopes to elevate people's perspective on sexual energy and learn ways that he can harness and use it, as opposed to that power using us to improve the quality of all of our lives. So thank you so much, Joel, for coming on and being open to doing this. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Hey there, MelRose. Hey, Bryn. Hey, everyone.
I'm really excited about this episode, Joel, because there's so much insight you can give, and you have also a really cool and unique career. So maybe if we could start for the people listening who maybe aren't as, familiar with you, but kind of giving your background and experience of how you ended up with the career that you have.
How did I end up with this career? It's funny, when I do look back, all of the steps make sense in hindsight, but at the time going through them, I didn't really see a through line connecting to where I am now. I was in the fitness industry for many, many years in New York. I was a personal trainer. When I moved to Seattle with my husband, I managed an athletic club downtown for many years. Then I became a licensed massage therapist. While I was doing that, I managed like a natural apothecary, a natural healthcare store. Then my massage practice shifted gears into tantric bodywork. Then I became a yoga teacher, and when I became a yoga teacher, that's when I really started to incorporate all of the things that I had learned from doing massage, from practicing tantric body work and from teaching yoga. That's when it all started to kind of come together into what I do now, as far as with, one-on-one clients and in the workshops that I teach. And the content literally was a product that came about out of, because of COVID, because of lockdown. I couldn't teach my workshops anymore, which are a big revenue stream for my yoga studio. And one of the younger guys in the bodywork group that I have at my studio said, you should start an OnlyFans and you should make videos of the stuff that you teach us in the workshops. And at that point, this was 2019, early 2020. I knew what OnlyFans was, but I had never really been on OnlyFans before. So he kind of helped me get started, and and then I just leaned into it basically, and it's it's kind of gotten to where I am now.
That's such a testament to not to bring this straight back to business. Of course, that's where my mind goes, but that's such a testament to letting the market decide. All of these skill sets that you've come to accumulate over these years and these natural paths of creativity and expression and yoga and tantric, all these things you're naturally drawn to, and then them kind of coming together in this culmination to have such a unique value proposition to produce and to sell this kind of content is really beautiful how that happened in that way.
Yeah, I think it's literally just kind of going with the flow, and that was a lesson that I learned pretty early on in life is, when the universe isn't giving you resistance, that's the direction you go. And even, if in the back of your mind you're thinking, wow, I had not planned on going here, if the doors are flinging open for you, you walk through them.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And I love that you spoke to resistance because I think so much, especially with the kind of like hustle and grind culture that we're all finding ourselves in, which I am so susceptible to, it feels like it should innately be hard to be right.
Mhm.
But I've also found that when things come together this easiest and almost the most serendipitous, like that's when those opportunities really feel aligned and kind of are the biggest levers to pull you forward towards whatever the success you're working towards is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm wondering, how did you kind of first discover this connection between sexuality and spirituality in your own life in work?
I would say like sex work and all of life is about karma. Okay, so if, every action has a corresponding reaction, and like treating others as you would want to be treated. And I approach each collaboration, I approach each interaction with clients from this perspective. I seek connections with guys that I create with, not let's get married connection. I'm already married, but let's communicate. Let's look each other in the eye. Let's set some intentions for this collaboration, for this bodywork session. So I'd say that my approach to this work is all about clear and clearly communicated intentions. And that just kind of opens up, when you really are connected with someone, the sex and spirit just present themselves as one. It's not even something that you have to work to cultivate. It's just there when you are truly in the moment with the person who you are with at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that not everyone can connect between sexuality and spirituality, to be honest.
Mhm.
Like I think that is a feat for some people, probably myself included, just to make that connection. I guess, how would you describe some of the work that you do to help kind of get people there to associate spirituality with sexuality?
So, I mean, the first thing that I do, like when I'm working with, a one-on-one client, or even for collaborations before we start to film, I explain to them the basic principles of Tantra. Most people have heard the word Tantra at this point, in our society and in the West, but a lot of people don't know what it means. Like a lot of people, they associate Tantra with, oh, that's that mystical, spiritual, sexual practices, and that's right on. That is what it is. But it's also much more than just that. So I explain to each person that I am working with, and just, and just when I'm just hooking up, what Tantra is. And, it's the oldest spiritual philosophy known to mankind. It's the only spiritual philosophy, and I think this is the thing that truly makes it unique. It's the only spiritual philosophy that includes our sex life in our spiritual practice. When you think about it, and most people don't go this deep with, with sexual energies. Sexual energy is the most powerful healing energy that the body produces. On a cosmic level, sexual energy manifests as creative energy, and creative energy is the most powerful energy, in the universe. If there is God, okay, the creator, creative energy is that. So the connection is there. Every time we feel that vibe in our body, what most of us just refer to as being horny, every time we feel that vibe in our body, that's what we're feeling. We're experiencing creative energy. And from a male perspective, because this is what I know, because this is what I am, and this is who I mostly interact with as far as sexually. Most guys don't go any deeper than, oh, I'm feeling it and I need to get off. So their first reaction to that energy is to want to get rid of it, as opposed to wanting to cultivate, wanting to generate more of it. And I'd say for like most of the guys that I work with, and for most of the people who consume my content, that's one of the biggest kind of ahas for them. And it's just because nobody ever taught us that. Growing up, we were never exposed to even, you know, looking any deeper than just the surface on what sexual energy is and how we can actually learn how to control it instead of it controlling us, and how we can use it to elevate our life, not just our sex life, but all aspects of our life.
So I would love to get into that part of this conversation because I'm genuinely curious about that. Like when we're talking about sexual energy and we're talking about how to harness it and not just let it kind of be a driving force for us, but us kind of use it in this
Hmm.
profound way. What does that mean? Like tangibly, like how does one do this?
No, it's a great question. I would say the one of the first things. I mean, I think this is the reason why it kind of just presented itself to me and it just kind of came to the surface, is because I practice yoga, because I meditate, I chant. And it doesn't mean that, like, everyone has to practice yoga and meditate and chant, but I think it's really important to have some sort of a consistent practice that grounds you, that quiets your mind, and that focuses the mind, because that's when you start to really be able to feel the energy for what it is, as opposed to, again, just that surface. So doing meditation, practicing yoga, chanting. And like one of the, like, as far as just a tangible thing that, that I teach in all my yoga classes and in my body work, workshops. And, if you've seen my content, you've seen several videos on this particular practice. It's a practice called humming, HUMMING, humming. Okay. You're not humming a tune, you're humming a tone. Okay. So literally, like, this is what it sounds like. It's super simple. It just sounds like this. And you just hum with each long exhale. You take a deep inhale and then you hum out on the exhale. You choose a frequency that's kind of the natural frequency of, that your voice falls into. So it's not too high, not too low. But what that practice does is it grounds us, it centers us. It's basically, it's purring. Cats purr. It's a self-soothing thing that cats do. So when I introduce humming to people, I say it's like purring for humans. And just humming for 5 or 10 minutes to start your day, or before you're going to work with a client, or before you're going to, have sex with a partner or a hookup, is going to ground you and it's going to open you to a deeper experience. And if you want to take it to the next level, hum with your client, hum with your partner. You sit across from each other. And, if you're comfortable, you can look in each other's eyes while you're doing this. For most people, that freaks people out. So just close your eyes and just hum together for 5 minutes. It immediately creates a vibrational connection between the two of you. And from there, things will just effortlessly flow.
If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends, because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance. Oh, that's so interesting. And so something you said before was like that this doesn't just affect your sex life, that this can affect the quality of your actual life. Like what
Yes.
does that look like? How does that take place or transpire?
Well, I mean, think in terms of, sexual energy is creative energy. Okay. On a cosmic scale, it's creative energy, it's life energy, it's what animates us. So if you are imbued with this energy, if you are infused with this energy, you're going to have a lot more life energy. You're going to have a lot more vitality to to move through the world, to get your shit done. You're going to have more energy, you're going to have more focus. If you're working on something creative, the ideas just flow effortlessly because you are literally marinating in that energy.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Okay. I'm with you. I'm excited about this. I'm going to incorporate this. I'm like taking notes as you're talking. I want to go back to tantric edging because that's something that I see, on your Twitter, and I was watching like some of your content. So when you incorporate tantric edging, what benefit is there to that specifically?
Okay, so like most people who are listening probably have seen, edging videos, at least on X. It's like it's a big part of, interacting with a dude's cock is edging, and most of the time it is represented in a way that's either the dude is working his own cock or someone else is working his cock, and they take him to the edge, to right before he's going to ejaculate, and then it's hands off and everything stops and everybody holds their breath in hopes that they didn't go too far, and then once things calm down, you dive back in and you pick up where you left off. And with tantric edging, there's several things that are different. The intention of just regular regular edging is, there's a control element to it. The person who is edging the other person is in control of their orgasm, and there's kind of a it's a little bit of torture because lots of times they won't let the dude ejaculate even though he's begging them to ejaculate, and that can be hot and that can be fun. But with tantric edging, it's more about an agreement to generate energy together, and the person who's being edged is agreeing to be in the hands of this other person and trust them, that when when the person who's being edged communicates, hey, I'm getting close, that the person who's doing the edging is going to shift gears. Okay. And basically what I mean by this, it's like with regular edging, usually when the guy gets close, it's hands off, you let go of his cock, and again, you just hope you didn't go too far. With tantric edging, you don't break contact. Okay, so instead of letting go, I teach what's called a root grip, which is basically you drop your hand down to the base of his shaft. So you're nowhere near the head. Okay, you drop whatever stroke you're doing, you drop immediately down to the base of his shaft and you grip firmly. It's not a death grip. You're not like trying to choke off the ejaculation. It's just a firm, grounding, stabilizing grip. Okay, that's what you're doing with your dominant hand. With your non-dominant hand, you're pounding his chest like Tarzan. So it's an open hand, and you literally, I don't know what it's going to sound like on here, but I'll pound my chest. You're just pounding his chest like Tarzan, and you're telling him to take deep breaths. Okay? What the pounding of the chest does is it brings his attention from his cock to his heart center. Okay? What the taking of deep breaths does, when you combine it with a visualization, okay, you tell the dude who you're edging, picture your spine as a long hollow channel, one end the top of your head, the other end your cock. Okay, and with each deep breath, you visualize, you picture drawing the energy that you're generating in your cock up your spine. You fill up your heart with that energy. Okay, when the energy of our cock, okay, which is creative energy, which is life energy, combines with the energy of our heart, which is the energies of love, of compassion, of forgiveness, okay, literally, that is our life work as human beings, okay? To infuse the energies of love and compassion and forgiveness and gratitude and generosity, to infuse those qualities with the energy of life. So those become the qualities that guide us through our life. That's how I approach tantric edging. It's not about controlling someone's ejaculation. It's not about torturing them. It's a team effort, and it is about taking them to probably deeper places than they could go on their own. And the other thing I'll say about tantric edging is, if you really want to get good at it, don't take yourself right to the edge. Okay, I teach guys a progression of 1 to 10, 10 being ejaculating. You want to work in that 5 zone. Okay, so that's like halfway there. Most of the time when guys edge or they're being edged, they let it go to like an 8 or a 9. Okay, and that's playing with fire. Okay, that's sometimes if you don't call it just right, by the time the dude who's stroking your cock or whoever's stroking your cock, gets the message, it could already be too late. The train could have left the station. So you play in that 5 zone, because then you're pretty safe that you're going to pause, do the root grip, pound his chest like Tarzan, encourage him to take deep breaths, to draw that energy up, fill up his heart with that energy. And then you let him let you know when he's good to go again. And sessions like that can go on for hours. I mean, my edging workshop that I teach is a 4-hour workshop, and it's not all edging, but, we edge for a solid, probably of those 4 hours, a solid 2 hours.
Wow, wow. Okay, so I have a question that I hope it does not come off like a stupid question, but because I'm a woman, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining this edging session going for so long and going to the edge, well, I guess a 5 and coming back and prolonging this orgasm. When do you get into like blue ball territory? How do you like, does that come into play? Do you avoid that? How, like, I'm so confused there.
So that's a great question. That is a great question. I mean, I get that question from men.
Okay,
So,
good.
don't think that that you're the only one that's confused by that. My experience with blue balls, okay, and this is my personal experience with blue balls, is it's a feeling of like congestion. It's not something that feels like, oh my God, my balls feel like they're going to fall off. It's just a heaviness in your balls. It's, I don't know. Sometimes I think guys are way too dramatic about blue balls. Um, and maybe it's because I go like 3 weeks in between ejaculations. I really work with that energy. Okay. So maybe I'm just more used to it than most guys. But bottom line, it's like most of my edging sessions, don't result in ejaculation. And yeah, for like, 10, 15 minutes after you put your cock back in your pants and start to go about your day again, you feel like, oh, I really, I'd really like to ejaculate. That goes away. And what you're left with is all the good energy that you just generated. So, in my mind, from my personal perspective, those, 10 minutes or so of, what some guys call blue balls, what I just talk about is it's just kind of a heaviness in your balls. For me personally, I've heard some guys say it's painful. I've never experienced that. Okay, I've never experienced pain. It passes, and then what you're left with is all of that energy, as opposed to feeling like you've been drained. Which is how most guys feel after they ejaculate, especially after a quickie. Most guys feel like they got the life sucked out of them. And, you want to bank that energy. You don't want a deficit of that energy. Does that answer
So
that question, Melrose?
yeah, absolutely. That's super interesting. So harnessing sexual energy in that way kind of feels like a complete mindset shift, I feel.
Hmm.
So, on that note, it kind of makes sense to me why a growing number of women have started kind of following your content or even just like being drawn to the kinds of things that you teach.
Hmm.
What is the feedback you've gotten from like women, fans, followers?
I mean, that's exactly it. Is that women are thankful to have a resource that actually just kind of teaches them what it's like to be inside a dude's body, to feel the things that a guy feels when he's dealing with sexual energy. And especially for a lot of straight men, you know their partners, their female partners, become the teacher, because not that many straight men seek out my content, but every man should know about this, because every man is capable of experiencing this and using this energy as opposed to the energy using them. So women become, for a lot of straight men, you guys become their teachers. You guys become, the goddesses of this energy, the gateway of this energy for men. So I think it's really important. There are women who teach this, these kinds of practices, like Margot Anand. She wrote a really good book. I think it's the ecstasy of sex. Or let me just look it up for a second, because there are some really, really good books on this, specifically written by women and for men and women. But whenever I've read the books, I've always felt like this is geared towards women. There's a book called Urban Tantra, by Barbara Carellis, which is great. And it's called The Art of Sexual Ecstasy by Margot Anand, Annand. Um, and those are two great books that specifically, are from a woman's perspective. They deal with both, the female and the male body, but it's from a woman's perspective. And then there are books that are from a male perspective, specifically for men. Like one of them that comes to mind is it's called Coming Out Spiritually, and that's by Christian de la Huerta. Then his last name is Huerta. Coming Out Spiritually. There's another one that I really enjoyed called Gay Men and the New Way Forward by Raymond Rigoglioso. Yeah, Raymond Rigoglioso, and I think it's Rigoglioso. Raymond Rigoglioso. So those are two that are kind of specific to men, and then the Urban Tantra and the Art of Sexual Ecstasy is specific. It deals with both, but those two are written by women. Very, very wise, very, very just ahead of their time women.
I love that, and I love that
Yeah.
you gave us the full recommendations because everyone listening, I'm sure, is going to add it to their Audible
Hmm.
or their reading list. I I feel like in a world where so many people struggle with, unhealthy relationships to sex and to intimacy, that from what you're describing, tantra and body work could be kind of the remedy to help with this. Was that fair to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shame is such a big part of just anyone who has even a sexual thought in the West, but especially when it comes to sex workers. I mean, every single person who is listening right now went through a period of time when they struggled with, okay, am I gonna do this, am I gonna do this kind of work, and you go through that tug of war in your mind. And some of us go through that tug of war throughout our whole you know vocation as sex workers. It's something that you never completely settle in your mind, that okay, what I'm doing is actually good, and it's contributing in a positive way to our culture, to our civilization. We've been layered with so many layers of different people's beliefs. It's usually not even our own belief system, but it's a belief system that is so deep and prevalent in Western culture when it comes to sex that it's really hard to dig yourself out from underneath that. And Tantra, it played a big role in my coming to terms with it, because it wasn't like, I just started doing tantric bodywork and I was like, I'm good with this, let's go. I struggled with it for years. And when I first started my OnlyFans, I cropped all of my videos from the neck down. I wasn't ready to show my face in the videos. It was just a bunch of, torsos in the videos, and my disembodied voice. And it wasn't until probably 6 months, 8 months into it that I kind of realized that, what? You sit in front of, a room full of men and you teach them about not not having shame about sex, and you're making these videos about not having shame about sex, and yet you're not showing your face, dude. You're not practicing what you're preaching. And that's what kind of the realization for me was. It's like, okay, if you're going to keep doing this, you have to do it authentically. You have to find a way to get okay with it. And one of the things that I did was I told my mother what I was doing. And my it was I just said, okay, you can't sit in front of in a circle of men and ask them, okay, a circle of like sex workers, of men, ask them how many of them have come out to their family about them being a sex worker, and not being able to raise your hand yourself. So I told her, and she was a little bit confused by it. My mom is 81, so she was a little bit confused by it. Her first question was, so when you make these videos, are you wearing clothes? And I said, no, I'm not wearing clothes, Mom. She was very, very into. She's a Jewish mom, so she was very into the fact that I was in the top 1%. That's what she kept focusing on. You're in the top 1%. How many people are like doing this? So in whatever way she was able to wrap her mind around it, for me, it was like coming out for the second time. And just like anyone on who's listening right now who had to come out for the first time knows what a fucking relief that is. The weight that is lifted off of your shoulders, you can't even believe that you've been walking around with that weight until that weight is actually gone. It was kind of coming out for the second time. There was this weight that was lifted. And for me, Tantra is the thing that kind of was the foundation, was the support. Like I said, Tantra is the only spiritual practice that includes our sex life in our spiritual life. So it's like, okay, if what I'm doing is grounded in spirit, how could it be bad? How could it be unhealthy? How could it be shameful? How could it be taboo? How could it be anything but something to fucking celebrate and share?
Absolutely. Something you said reminded me, because you talked about kind of like the shame of it all, and how that weighs on you, and almost having to like deprogram everything that's been taught to you, through society and through your environment and all the things as you kind of come into your own, and grow up as a human. And I just recently read this book, The Four Agreements. Are you familiar with it?
Uh-huh. Yes,
Okay.
that's a great book. It's a
It's a
great book.
fantastic book, and it speaks so much to like that deprogramming of yourself, and like the
Mhm.
unadopting of beliefs that were handed down to you, and indoctrinated into you, so to speak. And that's what it reminds me of. What you're describing is like, because I'm in this my own phase right now of like questioning a lot of things around me and in my own experience, and why I feel the way I feel, or why I believe things I believe. And what you're describing kind of reminds me of that. And you're right. How could spirit, because also oftentimes spirituality is at odds with sexuality, and
Yes.
they're kind of in dissonance. And how could that be when we are just created in our simplest form, and we have sexual desires and needs. Like it just doesn't make sense. If we were not created to also have that, why would we have that, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And it's a message that we have been told, for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it is such a part of the fabric of Western culture that to start to unravel that fabric is hard, and it takes courage, and it takes persistence, and just like what you're doing, it takes self-study. You have to pick up books like the Four Agreements. You have to, it's literally, you are becoming a better human being when you do self-study. It's introspection. It's a big part of yoga is personal insight, turning inward and not being so focused on everything outside of us. And as content creators, that's hard because we spend a lot of time on social media because we have to. That's how we get new clients, and that's how we get our work to be known. And it'd be it'd be a good practice to try and spend as much time looking inward as we do, taking in what's coming at us from the outside.
Yeah, I definitely I feel that so deeply. I know there's someone that wants to come up and speak, and I want to make sure I have that time for them. But I do want to kind of ask this final question, being like, what advice would you give to creators who are curious about incorporating spiritual practices into their own, sexual lives or content creation practices?
I would say it would start off with just exactly what we were just talking about, which is first focus on yourself. You first focus on yourself, take some yoga classes, start a personal meditation practice. As you go deeper into these practices, the connections between spirit and sex will just kind of naturally start to make themselves obvious. And I'd say, do your personal practice in the morning before the day and all the potential distractions get in the way, because it's very easy to be like, yeah, I'm going to do yoga, every morning. I'm going to, practice meditation every morning. And, you start your day, and then all of a sudden there's all these excuses why, I just can't do it today, but I'll do it tomorrow. It doesn't have to be a major time commitment. I mean, literally, what I tell people is start off 10, 15 minutes. Roll out your yoga mat and just roll around on it. Focus on breathing, focus on syncing up your breath with some simple movements. You don't have to twist yourself up into pretzels. You don't have to stand on your head. You don't have to put your feet behind your head. Forget about like what you've seen on the cover of Yoga Journal as far as what yoga looks like. Okay, you make it your own. It's all about connecting with yourself. Honor and respect, as far as just another thing that I would say, to focus on if you really do want to start to, bring some spirit into your work as, as a sex worker and as an adult content creator. Honor and respect this work that we all do. Okay, it's important work. When done well and with clear intention, it liberates people from the strongest, longest chains that humanity has been shackled with. And it's what we were talking about, shame. And most importantly, treat yourself, okay, which a lot of times is lost, and not just with, sex work, but just in general in our culture. Treat yourself with the same respect that you expect from others.
Ugh, that's so perfect. Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, let me bring Jesse up and add him as speaker really quick. All right, Jesse, I believe you have the mic.
Oh, I was just listening to what he's saying. What he's saying, it really like hits me where it's like, yes, everything he's mentioned is as a guy, it's 100% like I've experienced that. And I, dude, I would love to converse on the next level with you about this too, because you seem to know a lot. I'm trying to, I'm an upcoming content creator. I don't have a fan base that's up there. I've been trying to, and I don't have, you know, I'd say the smarts of how to do things. But you know, it's kind of hard for me to also be able to break into like how he was saying, opening up or coming out, you know, and letting family know of what I'm doing or stuff like that. So it's really like hit me a lot of places where I didn't expect, hit me.
Right on, Jesse. That's really good to hear. And I mean, literally, I think that is the most important thing as sex workers, as adult content creators, that we can do is just pay attention to our own heart and follow our own heart, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I mean, coming out to your family, especially, about being a sex worker or being an adult content creator, can be really, really fucking scary. And obviously, each of you know your own family. So some of you, that might not even be, within the realm of possibility. But if it is, when you're ready for it, it is a huge burden lifted off of your shoulders. And as far as being like a new content creator or sex worker, my best advice is follow MelRose, because I have learned so much stuff from, Sex Work CEO. I mean, I have learned so much stuff, and I have referred so many fellow content creators and sex workers to her work, because what she shares is so important, because it's not out there. That information is not out there for us. So for a lot of us, when we're first starting, we're just kind of taking shots in the dark, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't work. But if you're really serious about leaning into sex work, about leaning into adult content creation, you got to treat it like a job. And just like any job that you go to, any new job, there's a period where you're getting trained how to do that job. You got to train yourself for this if you want to be successful.
Man, this is first off, thank you very much. That was so kind. I appreciate you. And also, too, this is there's not enough time to like go into all of the things I want to go into with you, to be honest. So we'll have you back on again, Joel, because there's just so many things I want to talk to you about.
I would love that. I would definitely be down for that, Melrose.
I love that. Okay, could you plug all of your socials, all of your things, just so that everyone can find you, follow you, learn from you, just be around you?
Sure. My website is it's plural, powersofman.com, powersofman.com. You guys all have my Twitter, my X account. On Instagram, I am Powers of Man for the number 4 ever. And that's because my original one got banned. And so here's a really quick funny story, Melrose. My original one got banned, and literally that day I heard your Spaces conversation about the importance of being on, Instagram and TikTok, and kind of the platforms that definitely don't allow you to go there with your sex work, but how important it is to have a presence on those platforms, but you got to play by their rules. So I I got banned, and I was like, "Oh my god." And I immediately went and started a new one and decided, okay, I'm going to play by their rules and I'm going to see what happens. And it had taken me like 5 years on my first Instagram account to get up to like 5,000 followers. And that's because I was shadow banned, because I was posting stuff that sometimes they would take down, and sometimes it was like verged on really like pushing the boundaries. This new account, I followed their rules, and at this point it's probably been like a year, and I have, I think, like 24,000 followers. So just as an aside about Instagram and, TikTok and stuff, they're really important platforms to be on. You just got to follow their rules, everybody, and tone it way back. People who are into you are gonna dig deep and they're gonna find you. But you just can't lay it all out there on Instagram or TikTok, or you could get shadow banned and then no one's gonna see your stuff. But yeah, I would say my website, powersofman.com. You guys have my Twitter, and my Instagram is Powers of Man, the number 4 ever.
Perfect. And thank you. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad you grew so quickly and you rebounded so fast. Yeah, it's hard to play by the rules, but the only way to win, it would seem, is to play by the rules as they exist and not the ideals that we wish they existed by. That's a lesson I keep being retaught. So I'm so glad it worked out for you. And thank you just for being here. Thanks for joining us, for giving all of that insight. And then everyone else for listening. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is going to bring us to the end of today's space. Thank you to everyone just for joining in, coming up to speak, being engaged. Thank you, Joel, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Bye, guys. It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much.